everyone, welcome to my channel English Literature Made Easy with Saswati. In today's video, I will talk about William Shakespeare's play Othello. It is one of the greatest tragic plays written by William Shakespeare besides Hamlet, King Lear and Macbeth. It is a tragedy in 5 acts. So before we begin, let's first look at some of the key facts about the play Othello. The play Othello, the full title of the play Othello is The Tragedy of Othello, the Moor of Venice. It was written in the year 1603 by William Shakespeare during the literary period of the Renaissance, but it was published in 1622 in the quarto format. The setting of the play is Venice in Italy and Cyprus in the Middle East. Shakespeare's primary source for Othello was the Italian short story Un Capitano Moro, which means Moorish Captain, written by Cinthio, who was a disciple of Boccaccio. Of course, Shakespeare offered some plot alterations and he introduced some new characters such as Brabantio and Roderigo. Now let's look at the character list of the play. The first character of the play is Othello. Othello is the protagonist of the play and the play is named after him. He is an African Moor by race. Moor is a term typically used during this period to refer to a person who was of African descent and Muslim faith. So he is an outsider in the Venetian circle due to his race, religion and color. But he enjoys a high status as he is a general in the Venetian army. He has recently married Desdemona. S.E. Gradley calls Othello the most romantic of all of Shakespeare's heroes and the greatest poet of all of them. The second character is Desdemona. Desdemona is the daughter of the Venetian senator Brabantio. Before the play begins, Desdemona elopes with Othello. The third character is Iago. Iago is Othello's disloyal ensign. Ensign is a rank just below lieutenant. Iago is angry with Othello as he had hoped for promotion, but Othello passed over him in favor of Cassio. This leads Iago to plot a conspiracy to ruin Othello. The fourth character is Michael Cassio. Cassio is a young, charming soldier whom Othello promotes to the rank of lieutenant over the more experienced Iago. Iago resents Cassio for this. Cassio is absolutely loyal and devoted to Othello and shares a friendly relationship with Desdemona. The fifth character is Brabantio. Brabantio is Desdemona's father and a Venetian senator. He is enraged and he feels betrayed when Desdemona secretly elopes with the general Othello. The sixth character is Emilia. Emilia is Iago's wife and Desdemona's attendant. She is deeply attached to her mistress Desdemona. The seventh character is the Duke of Venice. He is the official authority in Venice. He respects Othello as a military general. It is the Duke of Venice who sends Othello to lead the Venetian army to defend Cyprus against the Turks. Now let's look at the minor characters of the play. The first minor character is Roderigo. Roderigo is a long rejected suitor of Desdemona. He is young, rich and foolish. He does not have any of the noble characteristics of Othello, but like Othello, he trusts Iago and he is duped by him. The second minor character is Bianca. She is a courtesan in Cyprus. She develops real affection for Cassio, but Cassio in turn is unkind to her. The third minor character is Lodovico. Lodovico is Brabantio's relative who acts as a messenger, bringing messages and letters from Venice to Cyprus. The fourth minor character is Montano. Montano is the governor of Cyprus before Othello's arrival. The fifth minor character is Graziano. Graziano is Brabantio's kinsman who accompanies Lodovico from Venice to Cyprus. The sixth minor character is the clown. The clown is the fool or servant of Othello and he appears in only 2 short scenes. His puns and riddles reflect the action of the main plot. Now let's look at the historical and the political context of the play Othello. Shakespeare's Othello is set in the later half of the 16th century when Venice was in constant conflict with the Ottoman Empire over the control of the eastern Mediterranean. The Ottoman Empire is modern-day Turkey. Cyprus, which is a small island off the coast of Greece, was a profitable island for trade and Venice was in full control of Cyprus, which greatly helped them to control the sea routes. On the other hand, the Ottomans, who wanted to expand their sea trade and commerce in Europe, began to see Venice's sea power as an obstacle. Hence, they moved against Venice, and thus began a series of conflicts between the Ottoman Empire and the Republic of Venice. In Othello, Shakespeare's reference to the threat of an attack on Cyprus could reflect a setting during this period. Now let's look at the act-wise summary of the play. So let's first begin with Act 1, Scene 1. Act 1 opens on a street in Venice with Roderigo and Iago arguing because Roderigo has learned that Desdemona has eloped with the Moorish general Othello. Now you must be wondering why Othello and Desdemona's elopement is a topic of argument or conflict. Well, Roderigo paid a lot of money to Iago to help him woo Desdemona, but Iago couldn't help him, and Roderigo is afraid that he has lost both his lady and his money, as Desdemona has eloped with Othello. Iago then assures Roderigo that he hates Othello because he had hoped for a promotion, but Othello passed over him in favor of Michael Cassio, who was far less experienced than Iago himself. Now he is just pretending to serve the Venetian general Othello, but actually he is not what he is pretending to be. In his very first act and scene of the play, Iago himself declares to Roderigo, "In following him, I follow but myself. I am not what I am." It suggests a lot about Iago's character, as you will see in the following acts of the play. So Iago plans to bring about Othello's downfall, and then Roderigo will have Desdemona. Next, the two men come out to the street outside Brabantio's house, who is the Venetian senator and Desdemona's father. They shout from the street that Brabantio has been robbed by thieves. Brabantio comes to the window, and at first he does not believe them, as he recognizes Roderigo, whom he has told to stay away from his house and his daughter. But as Iago starts talking in vulgar derogatory language about Desdemona eloping with the Moorish general Othello, Brabantio is infuriated. He searches for his daughter, but he cannot find Desdemona in the house. Brabantio declares that his daughter has been stolen by magic, and he orders his men to bring a search party and confront Othello. Now let's look at Act 1, Scene 2. Cassio is sent to bring Othello to an urgent meeting with the Duke of Venice regarding an urgent military crisis with threats of attacks by the Turks. Just then, Brabantio arrives and orders his men to imprison Othello, saying that Othello must have enchanted Desdemona, otherwise she would not have gone to a Moor. Just as Iago, Brabantio's language is also full of racial prejudices against Othello. But Othello is confident and self-assured that his military position will protect him from Brabantio's personal grievance and his racial status as an outsider. Othello asks everyone to put up their arms and informs Brabantio that he has been called by the Duke of Venice on state business. Brabantio decides to accompany Othello to the Duke and convey his grievances before the Duke of Venice himself. Now let's look at Act 1, Scene 3. This is the last scene set in Venice, in which the Duke and his senators discuss about Turkish aggression in the Mediterranean. Othello and Brabantio arrive, and Brabantio accuses Othello of using magic potions and spells to marry his daughter Desdemona. Othello replies that Brabantio invited him to his house, and Desdemona fell in love with him, hearing his accounts of travel, valor, and adventure. He further suggests that Desdemona should be summoned for her side of the story. When she arrives, she supports Othello's version of the events. She asserts independence from her father and obedience to her husband Othello. At this, Brabantio warns Othello. She has deceived her father and me thee. The Duke orders Othello to lead the Venetian army in Cyprus against the Turkish invasion. The Duke makes it a public statement that Venice relies on Othello completely. It is of utmost importance that Cyprus remain under Venetian control so that Venice profits from its sea trade and commerce, because, as I have already mentioned while talking about the play's political background, that Cyprus during that time was a profitable island for trade and Venice was in full control of it. So he didn't want to lose it to the Turks. Othello must leave for Cyprus that night and Desdemona insists on going with Othello. Iago's wife Emilia would attend to her. Roderigo is upset at all this, but he is reassured by Iago and he urges him to follow them to Cyprus where he will have Desdemona. Now let's look at Act 2, Scene 1. The play's setting shifts from Venice to Cyprus for the rest of the play. Cassio is the first one to arrive in the island of Cyprus, while due to a storm, Cassio and the Venetian general Othello's ships lost contact. It worries his newly married wife, Desdemona, who arrives next in the ship with Iago and his wife, Emilia. While they all wait for Othello, Iago banters about women before Desdemona, saying that women are generally deceptive and promiscuous. We have already got an idea of Iago's negative attitude towards women in his use of language in the very first act of the play itself. On the other hand, Cassio takes Desdemona's hand and courteously greets her. Iago notices it and hatches his plan to take revenge on Cassio, who has been promoted over him by Othello, and already starts making plans to strip his position as lieutenant. Othello arrives and greets his wife Desdemona. He also announces that the Turkish fleet has been destroyed by the storm. Now let's look at Act 2, Scene 2. Othello thanks the people of Cyprus for their hospitality and heads to the castle to celebrate their victory over the Turks as well as his recent marriage with Desdemona. Now let's look at Act 2, Scene 3. As the celebrations begin, Iago persuades Michael Cassio to drink and eventually he gives in. Iago sets up Roderigo up to quarrel with Cassio and a brawl breaks out in no time. Iago sends Roderigo to ring the alarm bell. Cassio beats Roderigo and Montano, the governor of Cyprus, who tries to intervene, is wounded. The noise and chaos outside interrupts Othello's private time with Desdemona. Angry at the uncivilized behavior and incompetence of his subordinates, he orders to put off the bell, otherwise the people of Cyprus might think there is a rebellion and they might rise too. In a haste, relying on his ensign Iago, who told him that Cassio is the one who started the brawl, angry Othello swiftly demotes Cassio from his position as a lieutenant and casts him from his service. Without realizing, Othello becomes manipulated by Iago. Look at Othello's words here. I know, Iago, thy honesty and love doth means this matter, making it light to Cassio. Calling and trusting Iago as honest, Othello paves the way for his own misfortune and destruction that we will see in the rest of this tragedy. After Othello returns to his lodging, Iago, feigning friendship, suggests that Cassio appeal to Desdemona as his chances of reinstatement are better if Desdemona pleads his case to her husband. Cassio believes Iago and readily agrees to appeal to Desdemona. With this begins Iago's larger strategy to plot Cassio and Desdemona and make them look like they are having an affair. Now let's look at Act 3, Scene 1. Iago uses his wife Emilia, who is also Desdemona's waiting woman, to arrange a private meeting between Cassio and Desdemona. Act 3, Scene 3. This is often called the temptation scene, which is the most important scene in the entire play, and it happens to be one of the most well-known dramatic scenes in Renaissance tragedy. This scene is considered to be the turning point of the play because, as you will see, in this particular scene, Iago successfully sows the seeds of doubt in Othello's mind that will seal Othello's fate. Now let's see what exactly happens in this scene. Cassio speaks to Desdemona and Desdemona assures him innocently that she will speak of him with her husband and will help him get his rank back as he is an old friend of Othello. When Othello and Iago approach, Cassio, who is embarrassed because of his carelessness and antics the previous night, leaves in a hurry. Iago takes this opportunity and remarks in his characteristic style, "Ha! I like not that." To this, Othello asks, "Was not that Cassio parted from my wife?" Iago then seizes the opportunity to plant the seed of suspicion and jealousy in Othello's mind. He points out that Cassio seems to be trying to avoid Othello, thereby plotting jealousy in Othello's mind. Desdemona greets her husband and tells him about Cassio's wish to be reinstated as his lieutenant and her own wish for their reconciliation. But Othello's mind is filled with other thoughts. He does not want to listen to Cassio's case now. So Desdemona departs. Iago and Othello are now alone. Iago warns Othello against the green-eyed monster of jealousy, while at the same time telling that Desdemona deceived her father, marrying Othello. Othello claims not to be jealous, though clearly he is. Iago exits and Othello, all alone, doubts Desdemona's faithfulness. He voices his own fears that Brabantio was right, that it was unnatural for Desdemona to love him as he is black, not well-mannered, and that it could not last. He curses marriage as he begins to think that he is tricked, married to a woman who is already looking at other men. Desdemona re-enters and tells Othello it is time for dinner. He tells her he has a headache. Desdemona offers her handkerchief, but Othello says it is too small and drops it to the floor. Emilia picks it up, noting that Desdemona treasures it because it was the first gift that Othello gave to her. So the handkerchief is a symbol of Desdemona and Othello's love, but now, consumed by jealousy, Othello rejects it, saying it is too small and lets it fall. In the meantime, Iago enters and grabs the handkerchief from Emilia. It is the perfect object to plant in Cassio's room. Othello's increasing jealousy is exacerbated by Iago's claim that he has heard Cassio calling out Desdemona's name in his sleep. He even claims that he has seen Cassio with Desdemona's handkerchief with strawberries embroidered on it. The confidence Othello shows in Act 1 when he confronts Brabantio and the Duke is shattered when he falls into Iago's trap and believes that Desdemona has betrayed him. In deep anguish, Othello vows to kill Desdemona and Iago vows to kill Cassio. Now let's look at Act 3, Scene 4. Desdemona is determined to advance Cassio's case when Othello enters and tells her he has a headache and asks for the handkerchief that he gave her. Desdemona tells him she does not have it at hand. Othello tells her about its origin. It was gifted by an Egyptian charmer to his mother, who used it to subdue his father. He adds that losing it would break the spell of love, as there is magic in the web of it. Othello exits and Cassio arrives to plead again with Desdemona. She tells him that she is trying, but he must be a little patient. At the end of the scene, the handkerchief is found in Cassio's room as he asks his mistress Bianca to copy the stitching on it as he admires it. Now let's look at Act 4, Scene 1. This scene begins with a crucial exchange between Iago and Othello, where Iago reports that Cassio has admitted to sleeping with Desdemona. Hearing this, Othello falls down in a trance, as the stage directions suggest. After Othello recovers, Iago urges Othello to hide while he questions Cassio about Desdemona. He actually asks Cassio about his mistress Bianca, which makes him laugh. Watching from far, Othello cannot hear what they are saying, but he believes Cassio is talking about Desdemona and becomes furious. At this moment, Bianca enters with Desdemona's handkerchief and throws it at Cassio, accusing him of having it from another of his mistresses. For Othello, this is a proof that Desdemona has been unfaithful to him. Lodovico arrives from Venice with messages from the Duke of Venice. Othello is ordered to return to Venice, leaving Cassio in charge in Cyprus. Desdemona is glad to hear of Cassio's good fortune, but Othello interprets it all wrong. He shouts and strikes her. Lodovico is surprised at Othello's changed behavior. At the end of the scene, Othello appears to be the most vulnerable, as Iago suggests the most intimate method of murdering Desdemona. Do it not with poison, strangle her in the bed, even the bed she had contaminated. Now let's look at Act 4, Scene 2. Othello aggressively questions Emilia about Desdemona and Cassio's relationship. Emilia insists that nothing has happened between the two, but Othello does not believe her. He speaks cruelly to Desdemona and accuses her of infidelity, although he also says that he loves her. This makes Desdemona confused and sad. She asks Emilia to call Iago, who feigns friendship and tries to cheer her up. Emilia is angry at the person who is behind the lies that has led Othello to his jealous rage. She is clueless that it is none other than her own husband. At the end of the scene, Roderigo enters and angrily confronts Iago, as Iago has failed to get Desdemona for him even after offering him all the jewels. But Iago calms him down and presents a solution to the problem. He tells him that Othello and Desdemona will leave Cyprus very soon and Cassio will be in charge in Cyprus. So Iago suggests Roderigo kill Cassio because it will keep Othello in Cyprus, which means Desdemona will be in his reach. With this, Iago shows that he is able to manipulate everyone around him. Now let's look at Act 4, Scene 3. Othello tells Desdemona to go to bed and to send Emilia and the other servants away for the night. As Emilia helps her get ready for bed, Desdemona remembers a song her mother's maid used to sing, a song of Willow, which is about a woman whose lover left her. Desdemona expresses her confusion as to why Othello thinks she could be unfaithful. She loves Othello and her love is as sincere now as it was in Act 1, despite the fact that Othello has doubted and chided her wrongly. Desdemona then asks Emilia to use the wedding bedsheets as a shroud for her if she dies. Now let's look at Act 5, Scene 1. This act opens at night in a street in Cyprus where Iago gives a weapon to Roderigo to kill Cassio. Please note that in the dark, Iago can control the assassination attempt without his involvement being known. Iago hides as Roderigo waits for Cassio. Cassio enters and Roderigo attacks, but he fails in his attempt. Instead, Roderigo is wounded by Cassio's counterattack. Iago darts in from behind, stabs Cassio and exits. From a distance, Othello hears Cassio's shouts and believes that Iago has killed Cassio. Moved by Iago's loyalty to him, Othello dashes off to kill Desdemona in her bed. Lodovico and Graziano enter, looking for the source of all the commotion, but they cannot see anything in the dark. Iago enters with a light, pretending he has just arrived for the first time. He identifies Roderigo as the attacker who injured Cassio. So, feigning concern and to keep his reputation in place as an honest man, he stabs and kills Roderigo. It shows how treacherous Iago is to kill the person with whom he has plotted since the beginning of the play, but now he removed him from his way so that he cannot divulge Iago's role in the entire plot. Now let's look at Act 5, Scene 2. Othello enters his bedchamber with a candle and finds Desdemona asleep. He admires her beauty and kisses her. She wakes up and he encourages her to confess her sins. He tells her that he is going to kill her and shows the handkerchief. She pleads with him, saying she never loved Cassio. He refuses to believe her and smothers her with a pillow. Othello draws the curtains around the bed to hide Desdemona's body and lets Emilia in, who discovers Desdemona trying to say something with her dying breath. To spare Othello from the punishments he will receive, Desdemona says she committed suicide. She loved him even in death. Othello himself tells Emilia he killed Desdemona because of an affair with Cassio. Emilia, who knows it is a lie, tells him Desdemona was never infidel to him. Othello then counters her that it was honest Iago who showed him the truth. When Emilia realizes her husband is the culprit, she cries out, "Murder!" Montano, Iago and Graziano enter. Emilia accuses her husband. Othello finally realizes the truth and tries to attack Iago, but he is disarmed by Montano. In the uproar, Iago fatally wounds Emilia and flees, but he is caught. Othello again attacks and wounds Iago. Even after repeated requests, Iago refuses to speak and explain what was the reason behind his evil intentions. English romantic poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge referred to it as Iago's motiveless malignity, and it was asked a number of times in UGC NET JRF examination. Othello, now realizing his terrible deed, has asked everyone to think of him as one that loved not wisely but too well. Then he stabs himself and falls onto the bed beside Desdemona and dies, giving her a final kiss. Lodovico blames Iago for everything and declares that he will be executed. Now let's look at the themes of the play. Apart from the themes of love, jealousy and revenge that lies on the surface of the play, let's look at the themes of race, interracial marriage, and identity that are very, very crucial to the play. The first issue or theme that we are going to look at is the theme of race. Before Othello, black characters in Elizabethan drama were usually villains. But with Othello, Shakespeare breaks the Elizabethan dramatic tradition and presents a hero who is black and a military general who has risen to a position of power and influence. Unlike the rest of Europe, Venice during the 16th century, remember the 16th century was widely known as the Elizabethan period. So Venice during this period was a very cosmopolitan city. It was a hub for Europeans, Africans as well as Asians. But still, it was not a very tolerant and inclusive city or place. Despite being a military general, Othello is an outsider in Venice and he encounters some pretty overt racist remarks by some of the characters in the play. The play begins with Iago talking negatively about Othello, and not just Iago, Roderigo and Brabantio too express racial prejudice in their descriptions of Othello. Due to his black African origins, Iago calls Othello a lascivious Moor and an old black ram, while Roderigo calls Othello the thick lips. Now let's look at the theme of interracial marriage. Please note that the themes of interracial marriage or the theme of identity, all these themes are related to the larger theme of the race in this play. So you need to know that 16th century Elizabethan audience was not ready to see an interracial couple on stage, but because Shakespeare made Iago so malicious that the audience had no other choice but to accept Othello. Brabantio, Desdemona's father, believes that his daughter's interracial marriage is the result of Othello's sorcery and witchcraft. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a fine white lady to fall in love with the Moor. Now let's look at the theme of identity. At the beginning of the play, Othello is confident and he knows that he deserves Desdemona. But at the end of the play, Othello is insecure about his own racial identity and he perceives himself as undesirable as he starts looking at himself through Iago's racist lens. In the temptation scene in Act 3, Scene 3, Othello denounces Desdemona for her supposed infidelity and calls it black as my own face. So that's all for this video. I hope you have learned quite a new things about the play Othello, and if you did, then do like the video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And please hit the bell icon so that you don't miss an update. So thank you very much, and if you have any suggestions or if you want me to make any videos on any of the new topics that you want me to make, then please write in the comment section below. Till then, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.